Astral travel is the kind of shit that people only dare to whisper about, or the thing that you hear from your crazy aunt. But the thing is, it happened to me. I didn't ask for it, and it happened. And so we are about to unpack all of this because it literally altered forever the way that I show up. You're about to unpack the night that I literally left my body, the truth behind only living in the 3D world and shifting into the 5D, why successful women don't actually lack strategy, but they lack energetic certainty, and how high achiever get to fully let go of what is holding you back to step into your biggest manifestations. First of all, happy Tuesday and welcome back to the podcast. Now, today's episode is a little bit different from what we usually talk about. I love the universe. I love manifestation. I love all these kind of like spiritual things. But this was really the first time of my life that I experienced something that is simply not explainable unless you've lived it. Now, first of all, I have to take you back to the beginning. Okay, so how the hell did this happen? This was not intentional. So this all started at the first fall of snow. Okay, and so it is said that the first fall of snow actually makes the layers of reality more thin. The spaces that are not in the 3D world, the things that are more energetically living, if that makes any sense, is closer to us. Okay, during the first fall of snow, I've had this experience where I wasn't in my body anymore, and I was literally in this in-between space that it didn't feel like it was fully here, but it didn't feel like it was fully somewhere else either. Then after that experience, I just didn't really think anything of it. I went about my life, whatever. Okay, then second time this happened. Okay, again, literally in a state where I left my body, not on purpose, but I literally was not in my body anymore, and it was like my consciousness was just in this other space, which I can only explain as a full astral travel moment. That was the exact moment that I realized, oh, like I'm actually not in my body. Like this is like literally my consciousness traveling as I was in that moment. I was like, oh, but somehow I wasn't scared. I could see my dog, who actually passed away quite a few months ago. And this was really odd because I was not expecting that. The space in which we were in was exactly the same space in which I was in. How every single thing around us wasn't restricted by like the 3D world, and so I felt like you could just move through like basically anything. And being able to literally meet my dog's soul or consciousness within this space, and him being able to actually feel me and see me, is kind of like a complete surrender and like total loss of control. Okay, because it's like it's like nothing makes sense, but everything makes sense. Within our world, like everything is 3D, right? But not every single thing that exists though is tied to the physical aspect of things, right? Like when you think of like your presence, your energy, the frequency in which you live in, the energy or the consciousness state in which you live in. These are all things that are not tied to the physical world, right? These are just things that are part of, more of the 5D world, which is like, your frequency, your vibration, the things that like you cannot see, but you can feel or you can experience them. There's just nothing quite like it that exists here. When I got out of that astral travel, okay, when it was done, I have felt light as a feather and dropping back into my body. And I'm not kidding, it took me about a week to kind of like adjust back, if that makes sense. I didn't just need to trust every single thing that already had proof or that I could prove, but I also needed to trust every single shit that I know and that maybe you cannot prove. It's kind of like fully exiting the like proving frequency permanently and literally fully replacing that with like certainty frequency. It starts doing this like amazing ripple effect into every single thing in your life. You're ditching like the double check, or you're ditching, you know, asking for a second opinion for what the fuck ever you're doing, or, you know, waiting for the green light, or still using other as a key reference point to your decision to if you're right or not, or if this is the right decision or not, or if this is the right time or not, or whatever. And I know that like we always talk about this, you know, yes, like taking bold decision and going with like what feels right for you, even if it doesn't make fucking sense to anyone. But most of the time I feel like, you know, it's so easy for everyone to get caught up in, oh, let me just double check this. Let me just see if it makes logical sense. Like there's still this like, you know, there's still this like little doubt, like kind of poking you in the ass, you know? But this is like fully altering to a frequency of trust, even though maybe there's no fucking logic side. Like you're just completely not even looking for it. That's what I'm looking for. You're not even looking for it. You're like, I feel it in my bone, in my body. Yes, let's fucking go. And you're making faster move, bigger investments, or like having like clearer boundaries, or making more money. And that all comes as a ripple effect of having such immense amount of certainty on like a literal cellular level. Trust is such a big thing when it comes to making your decision, you know, running your business, being an entrepreneur in general. I feel like you just need to have a lot of trust, and that trust never ends. Like, you know, you're always growing it, you're always growing your business. It always comes with more responsibilities, more decision to make, or different directions, or the offers that you decide to build, or the service that you provide, or whatever. It always comes with this immense amount of trust, right? And that never goes away. It just always needs to grow, and it has to grow alongside the bigger decision that you're gonna make, or the bigger change that you decide to bring to your business, or the way that you do things, or whatever. Like the trust aspect just never ever ends. I think it's so important to balance that immense amount of trust with also intuition, and also just knowing in your soul that like it's right for you, and doesn't necessarily need to go around in your head like 10 this different decision or direction that you can take, and like looking specifically at every single one, and sometimes just deciding based on your gut, right? Because at the end of the day, like it needs to feel like something that you want to live in, right? Like that's what we want at the end of the day. Sometimes it's not always about what makes the most logical sense, but it's more like what is kind of like the energy in which I want to feel, and like how does that make me feel, how that direction makes me feel, and how does this one makes me feel, right? Maybe this one feels like the most logical one, but actually it doesn't really resonate with me, or like I feel like my gut feeling is telling me not to do that, or maybe it is telling me to do that, right? And so I feel like just leaning way more into your intuition, and trusting that at the end of the day, your intuition is also part of a logical side of things that just might not have the full explanation for you yet, but that eventually you will find that actually it does make sense. You know what I mean? Because your gut is part of things that does make sense at the end of the day, because it is part of how you feel, how you experience things. And so this matters just as much. I have to say that the thing that really shook me to my core was how I was able to feel within that space of consciousness of not being tied to my physical body. It literally felt like a state of such bliss and peacefulness and fulfillment that was prolonged for like such an immense amount of time. Not like an immense amount of time, but in a way that is not like humanly possible to feel that much that way for that long as a human. That is the only way I can explain it. It was not coming from me, but it was coming from outside of me, submerging me, because I was in that space. And I don't know if it's because it's tied to not being tied to your physical body or what, like your frequency and your energy matters so much to the 5D world, right? Which is like all the things that are not physical that get attracted to you or that are influenced by your 5D world, which is, your energy, your frequency, all these things. And how much it could be so much better because being in that space and feeling that way was something that I will take to my grave. And funny enough, okay, like many people explain their astral travel experience the same way that I experienced it. And this is not something that I knew before. Because of course, after that happened, my first thought was, let me Google this shit. And it's literally always coming down to the same things. You're leaving your physical form. You're entering a new kind of consciousness. Everything is so motherfucking bright, but not in a way that is blinding your eyes. And you get submerged by this immense feeling that doesn't exist. Which is actually insane. How many people get to say that they got out of their physical form and literally came back and their life was changed forever? Because I felt like that was my experience. And it also changed forever the way that I felt about my intuition and my self-trust and the things that I always felt like had to make sense or had to have this logic behind it, or always at least felt like I was somehow looking for some sort of logic or explanation. On that topic of like fully trusting your intuition, I feel like, changing, for example, my business, which was in the 3D world, like something that you can fully see and explain. And the decision that I made to shift my makeup business to personal branding, that was a decision that I made in the 3D world, right? Which is that I can explain it, I can see it happening, right? But I had to trust in the 5D before I actually was able to make that decision, right? And the 5D being the energy, the trust, the things that I could not see that would come from that decision. That trust of like trusting something that was not yet in the physical world allowed me to actually bring it into the physical world and actually make it what I wanted it to be. And it was a change that was scary as fuck because it felt like losing something in a way, like I spent so many years like building that makeup business and it felt like losing it. But it was like one of those decisions that again, like kind of like really makes me think of the 5D reality, which is like choosing this bigger reality and knowing that it will pour into the 3D. Intuition really can move you into new realities that you get to select. Most of the time, this is actually why so many successful women actually struggle to trust themselves at a higher level, right? Because it's kind of like at first you start off more with your intuition, with your gut feeling, but then eventually the logic kind of like sometimes take over more. It's more, what's lacking is more, the connection, the deep connection to yourself, to your intuition, your energetic certainty. And so all of these things are all tied into, the 5D world, the things that like you cannot always see, but they are there. How are we bringing the 5D into the 3D and merging them together in order to really like call in your bigger manifestation, right? Like maybe you're always looking for the how, but you're not looking, and you're only looking at the 3D, but you're never looking at the 5D, like where your mental state is, where is the frequency that you embody every single day going towards that bigger vision? Like what do you feel like what is actually within your consciousness? What is the 5D reality that you are actually living in? And does it match that bigger reality that you are calling in and wanting to go within? Because I feel like that is the main thing that made me realize having that experience of how much it matters just as much as we treat the like 3D world, as taking the action and like moving in the 3D world, but also it mattered just as much where your consciousness is at. And you don't need to like astral travel to realize that. It's just such a blessed experience to have had that, because now I can see like how much more I can embody that like 5D and give it more space into my life, into every single thing that I do, but also how much it is so important to be able to stand within your own freaking certainty and just not needing anyone around you to like confirm it first, right? Certainty at its finest feels easy. Why? Because you are not submerged by all of the doubt and all of the like little like voices in your head that are like making you spiral, right? It's just simply, it feels so easy to have certainty because it's just you, and you are standing in your fucking truth, and you're not waiting for an okay for someone else for it to be truth, or for you to get up on that stage and take up space, say your real fucking opinion online, or for you to take that decision to switch your business around to something you've never done before and it actually fucking scares you. Like all of these things are part of just having this next level kind of certainty that is just doesn't always come in a 3D form. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just does not come always in a 3D world. And that comes with, being okay to not control every single thing, being okay that some stuff just doesn't need the logic behind it, and also being able to embrace the 5D world and being aware of like what is the frequency that you are living in, like what is the vibration. Like if you could describe yourself as a human as a vibration, like how would you describe it? Like, does it feel light? Does it feel amazing? Does it feel bright? Does it feel enlightening? Or like, like how would we describe you as a vibration? Because that is probably the one that you are living in the most. That inevitably affects every single thing that you do actually get to see from the logical side, from like the 3D world that you are seeing and experiencing with your eyes and with your logical side of your brain. And also making your manifestation so much easier to pour in with that much certainty that you're always holding, but also not always needing the how or the logic side for every single thing. So with that said, I hope you absolutely love this week's episode talking about my experience with astral traveling and consciousness and every single thing that has to do with basically our realities and how we just experience and move through life. If you love this episode, definitely send it to someone, send it to a friend that you know absolutely would love to hear about this, and I'll meet you here next week. Thanks so much for tuning in, and don't forget to leave your 5-star rate and review on the podcast. I love to know what you guys think of the episodes, and I will meet you here next week.